Hello, I'm Burt Green. This is the Burt Locker. It's a fun/comedy MMA recap show. It's hard to encompass exactly what goes into this chaos that we all thrive in. This one in particular is going to be looking at UFC Vegas 81, headlined by Brendan Allen and Paul Craig. Some of the biggest takeaways from that and what's been going on in MMA news this week. So let's get cracking. Main things to take away from UFC Vegas 81. It was an okay card, you know. It ups and downs. The main card was a little bit of a come down from the New York card. This is the problem. Sometimes you have these cards, you know, when you've got cards that are as good as Prochaska versus Alex Pereira, and obviously the main event, Aspinall versus Pavlovich. You have an event of that magnitude, and then you kind of go to the fight nights. Don't get me wrong, it's still a history-making event. Fair play to Paul Craig, making history to be the first Scotsman to ever headline a UFC fight card. Congratulations to you, by the way, just for that. Phenomenal achievement to have the career that he's had. But earlier on in the card, you had another UK guy, Mr. Christian Leroy Duncan. Now, he's a middleweight that I'm really interested in. You need to really keep an eye on this fella. His striking is so much fun to watch. And I haven't seen him against a real legit wrestler yet. But in the middleweight division, which is where he fights, how many real legit wrestlers are there? Like, proper wrestlers. I mean, you've got Bo Nickel, Hamzat Chimaev, of course. But outside of that, I mean, you've got guys like Marvin Vettori, who look like a great wrestler against Kevin Holland, but that's because Kevin Holland's just very easy to take down, apparently. It turned Vettori into a class wrestler. But outside of that, I don't know if he's got too many issues in that regard in the middleweight division. And when he's allowed to kind of stand, especially give him space, he is creative as all hell. You watch his knockout at the weekend. Spoiler alert, he won by knockout. But he's throwing these elbows, like Joey, throwing like 3 elbow combinations, which is you don't see that a lot. You see like one on the break, or possibly, jab and then the elbow coming in. But you very rarely see just like combinations of elbows being thrown. And it was terrific, I've got to tell you. It's some brilliant combinations. Some of the hook kicks were fantastic. The leg kicks. He showed a lot of promise in the grappling exchanges as well. Yeah, really keep an eye on Christian Leroy Duncan. Chase Hooper got back into the win column. I called that one completely wrong. I thought that what's his name? The serial killer. Why have I forgotten his name? Levitt. Jordan Levitt. God damn it. Yeah, anyway, he looks like a serial killer. He might have heads in his freezer. His own head was being carried down to the freezer after Chase Hooper took it off. But yeah, and then the only other thing that I really took away was the the main event. Obviously, Paul Craig against Brendan Allen. It was always going to be a tough outing for Paul Craig, honestly. Brendan Allen is just really, really good. They put his first fight in the middleweight division, they put him against an absolute stud. And stylistically, I always thought this was going to be a slight issue, just because, Paul Craig's very happy to fight off his back. And that's great when you're against somebody who's not an elite, like who's a good grappler, who thinks they're a good grappler. Paul Craig can catch those guys because he's so good off his back. He's so aggressive that he can catch them in triangles and things like that when they get caught napping. Unfortunately, Brendan Allen is not that guy. He just isn't. He's so elite himself that it's like he wasn't making the mistakes that Paul Craig required in order to be effective off his back. And it wasn't even really a poor strategy, because I was thinking about it in terms of, we saw Mackenzie Dern fighting Jessica Andrade last week. And for me, I feel like that was a failure of strategy, because Mackenzie Dern decided that she didn't make any attempt to get to the fight to the ground. And she just basically was happy to strike with Jessica Andrade, who is just a far superior striker. In terms of striking, for Jessica Andrade, it's like breathing. She doesn't have to think about it. Every time you saw Dern doing some attacks on the feet, you could tell she was really thinking about what she was having to do. That wasn't the case with Paul Craig against Brendan Allen, because Paul Craig was just like, he did try and stand with Brendan Allen, but actually he got caught a few times on the feet. He got really wobbled at one point, and so I don't think he was necessarily on his back out of choice. Normally he is more effective off of his back, but Brendan Allen is just so good that he wasn't able to get anything going. And Brendan Allen, you give him enough time in top position, he'll find the back, he'll find the rear naked choke. That is what Brendan Allen's all about. He's got like 4 rear naked chokes in the UFC now. I think it might more or less be in a row. Anyway, Brendan Allen, really one to watch out for. I don't know who you put him against next. I was just trying to bring up the middleweight rankings, to be fair. Middleweight rankings, yeah, so Paul Craig, you had him ranked at number 13. Brendan Allen was already ranked at 8th. You got some fun fights up there. Marvin Vettori. I did mention Marvin Vettori earlier. I don't know if Marvin Vettori's got a fight. You know what? The next fight for Brendan Allen should probably be Marvin Vettori. I'd watch that. I'd watch the hell out of it. I'd quite fancy Brendan Allen's chances as well. I think he's really very, very good. So then, what have we had going on in the news? The main thing we've had going on in the news is this Tom Aspinall fingering question. Right. Which is as weird as it sounds. I haven't watched the whole interview. I've watched all I seem to be able to find are clips of it. I'm not looking particularly hard, if I'm honest. But so I don't know what the whole context behind it. I've seen the clip of it, and it's just, he sits there and says, "Have you ever been fingered by an MMA fighter?" And it's just like, what? No. What would it take? It's like, it was very odd. I don't think it was meant to be kind of sleazy or kind of aggressive or whatever. I think I haven't seen the other questions that she was asking him. From what I understand, she asks like these kind of filthy questions to MMA fighters, and he was trying to kind of return fire, but it just did it in a bit of a clumsy way that came across as just a bit weird. It was just mega awkward, honestly, and it was just like it seems to be that you can tell it's a slow news week in mixed martial arts when that's one of the biggest stories of the week. Do you know what I mean? He's just been crowned the interim champion, for God's sake. It's just, I know that you have to try and make these news stories, like you have to make this clickbait and whatever, but come on, guys. It's just weird. Look, was it clunky? Yes. Was it weird? Yes. Was it intended aggressively? No. Was it kind of a form of sexual abuse, as some people have been alluding to? Absolutely not. You're out of your mind if you think that. Do you know what I mean? It's just, when did people get so sensitive? Do you know what I mean? It was just a clumsy way. He was trying to, basically, she likes to ask embarrassing questions, and he decided to try and return in fire, and did it in a not particularly clever or well thought out way, is all I would say to that. But then John Jones comes out of the woodwork and decides to try and stick his oar in, which is even weirder, right? Because John Jones comes up and he's like, yeah, I don't know what he was trying to do, but I can tell you that if he said anything like that to any of the women in my life, he'd be drinking his meals through a straw for the rest of his life. And it's like, first of all, I think John Jones may have misheard what was going on. I think he thought that if his fiancée mouthed off again, he would make it so that she's eating through a straw. Because look, isn't that what John Jones got in trouble for last year? Where was this chivalrous John Jones when you were beating up your fiancée in a Vegas hotel and headbutting a cop car? That wasn't that long ago, right? Now, look, I'm not saying that they can't reconcile. I'm not saying that John Jones is necessarily a bad person. But how do you come out and say, oh, Tom Aspinall made a crass, ill thought out joke to a woman that was interviewing him? If he ever did that to my wife, I'd beat the crap out of it. Where was that guy when do you know what I mean? It's like, not being funny, John, but people in glass houses, winging stones all over the place. What the hell, dude? It's just, look, I'm not saying don't have a comment on it. Maybe just say, well, that was a dumb thing to say and it made him look like a dummy. Do something like that. But why do you have to say, try and make it sound like, if he said that to any of the women in my life, no one hurts the women in my life except me. Get him. It's just like, John, it's just not a good look. Because people do remember when you got dragged out of that hotel, when your wife was at the reception desk with a fat lip. Come on, man. Come on. Like maybe don't even mention like the whole aspect of women in my life. Maybe just because that's a stupid. You've commented on Aspinall saying something stupid by saying something equally stupid, and now I'm saying something stupid. It's all pretty dumb. I think we can all agree. But yeah. That's basically, you can tell it's been a slow news week in MMA because that's basically all that's there. I haven't done one of these in like a couple of weeks. I haven't seen an awful lot that's really made me laugh, and this one did. So Burt's Troll of the Week. It's basically my favourite MMA themed comedy meme of the week, and it's this one. Because at the start of the Tom Aspinall-Sergey Pavlovich fight, do you see? Remember at the start when Tom put his arm around, they're standing there with their arms around each other. That was mad weird. That was really, really very odd. And yeah, you've got a picture of that happening. You've got Dan Mergliotta there, and he's saying, "Okay, gentlemen, obey my commands at all times. Protect yourself at all times. If you would like to awkwardly touch each other's shoulders for 5 seconds, do it now." And genuinely, that struck me as weird. Did it strike you as weird? Struck me as weird. Anyway. There's no fights on this week. The next fight card is Arman Sarukian against Beneil Dariush. That is a very interesting fight. I believe it's been cobbled together quickly because I think a China or a Singapore event fell out. Anyway, I'll be looking into that one in more detail closer to the time. Until next time, keep those odds long and those bets terrible.